When you think of power, you probably imagine wealth, luxury, and influence stretching across borders. But what happens when that power comes with shadows so dark they threaten to consume everything in their path? Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS as many call him, is a name that carries both admiration and fear. Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, he's the kingdom's de facto ruler, a man whose public image is painted as that of a reformer. He promises a modernized Saudi Arabia with movie theaters, concerts, and relaxed social rules. Yet behind the polished smiles and carefully staged photo ops lies a story of ruthless ambition, family betrayals, and a trail of human rights abuses that leaves the world questioning just how far he will go to stay in power. MBS was born in 1985, the son of King Salman. Growing up in a sprawling royal household, he was exposed to the corridors of power from a young age. Ambitious and driven, he quickly rose through the ranks, earning roles in economic and security sectors. By 2017, at just 31, he had outmaneuvered older and more experienced rivals to become Crown Prince. His youth and energy gave hope to some that the kingdom might finally embrace modernization. Western media applauded his efforts to ease some of Saudi Arabia's strict social laws, especially allowing women the right to drive, a long overdue change that was hailed as a symbol of progress. Yet, the cost of the so-called progress was far steeper than most dared to speak. Within weeks of his rise, MBS began a brutal crackdown on dissent. Two of Saudi Arabia's most prominent royals, former Crown Prince Mohammed bin Nayef and Prince Ahmed bin Abdulaziz, King Salman's last surviving full brother, were detained. Officially, no one admitted why, but whispers of a foiled coup plot swirled in diplomatic corridors. Those close to the royal family suspected it was a simple power grab, a way for MBS to silence potential threats and tighten his grip. As one observer described, it was a ruthless show of strength designed to clear the path for the young crown prince. But perhaps the darkest chapter of MBS's reign began on a sunny afternoon in 2018, when Jamal Khashoggi, a well-known Saudi journalist and former government insider, stepped into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. His mission was innocent: to obtain a document confirming his divorce so that he could marry his Turkish fiancée Hatice Cengiz. Instead, it turned into one of the most gruesome assassinations in recent memory. At first, Saudi Arabia vehemently denied any involvement. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman told the press that Khashoggi left the consulate after a brief visit, insisting that there was nothing to hide. But as international pressure mounted and contradictory reports emerged, the story shifted. The official narrative morphed into a so-called rogue operation, an accidental death during a fistfight. Yet the Turkish government insisted otherwise. Behind closed doors, audio recordings purportedly emerged, capturing the sounds of the brutal murder. Two Saudi agents were heard discussing how to dismember the body, apparently referring to Khashoggi as the sacrificial animal. One of them remarked on the difficulty of cutting the body, while another asked if the sacrificial animal had arrived. The sheer horror of the exchange sent shockwaves around the globe. Despite multiple investigations by the United Nations, human rights groups, and various governments, no one was ever definitely held responsible. Saudi Arabia arrested 21 individuals and carried out secret trials, sentencing 5 of them to death. But the Crown Prince himself was never charged. His official position remained that he had no knowledge of the killing, though he took full responsibility as it was committed by individuals working under the Saudi government. MBS's public justification was clear. national security. He claimed that the people arrested had connections to foreign intelligence agencies, specifically pointing fingers at Qatar and Iran as the masterminds trying to destabilize the kingdom. He insisted that the crackdown on activists, critics, and even women's rights advocates was not about silencing reformers, but rather about protecting Saudi Arabia from foreign manipulation. But the world saw through the smoke and mirrors. One of MBS's most controversial moves was the 2017 Ritz Carlton purge. Hundreds of the richest and most powerful businessmen, royals, and high-ranking officials were arrested under the guise of fighting corruption. Yet critics quickly pointed out that many of those arrested were political opponents or people seen as threats to the Crown Prince's authority. Locked up in luxury, but reportedly physically abused, some of the detainees even required hospital treatment, and at least one reportedly died in custody. Observers saw the move for what it was, a ruthless strategy to consolidate power. MBS was no reformer. He was an autocrat disguising ambition as progress. Even as MBS introduced societal reforms, movie theaters reopened for the first time in decades, concerts became public events, and the once tightly controlled entertainment industry began to thrive. The kingdom's record of executions skyrocketed. Saudi Arabia, the last country in the world to still behead people as a form of execution, saw an average of 16 executions per month, the highest in its history. Amnesty International and other watchdogs condemned these brutal acts as a tool to stifle dissent, particularly targeting the Shia minority. According to reports, many executed were simply accused of protesting their treatment or speaking up against the regime. The use of the death penalty appeared to function as a political weapon, discouraging others from daring to raise their voices. Then came the war in Yemen. Saudi Arabia, led by MBS, intervened in Yemen's civil war in 2015, launching an aerial campaign against Houthi rebels, supposedly aiming to prevent Iran-backed militias from gaining ground. The conflict morphed into one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Over 20,000 raids later, the death toll reached tens of thousands. Millions were displaced, and famine threatened the lives of countless innocents. When asked about the civilian casualties, MBS said that mistakes happen in any military operation. But for many observers, that explanation rang hollow. Hospitals were bombed, schools leveled, and entire villages wiped off the map. International organizations accused the Saudi-UAE coalition of indiscriminately targeting civilian infrastructure. The Saudi-Lebanese episode further exposed the Crown Prince's thirst for control. In 2017, Saad Hariri, Lebanon's prime minister, was detained in Riyadh. His phone was confiscated upon arrival, and a day later he resigned live on Saudi television. Lebanese leaders cried foul, calling it an abduction of their sovereign leader. Hariri accused Iran and Hezbollah of destabilizing Lebanon, but remained in the Saudi capital for 2 weeks, only returning after international mediation. MBS denied any coercion, though many suspected otherwise. International relations strained further when Canada called for the release of women's rights activists imprisoned in the kingdom. MBS responded by expelling the Canadian ambassador, freezing trade, and ordering Saudi students in Canada to return home. His message was clear: no foreign nation would interfere in Saudi affairs. Then came the most dramatic blow to MBS's reputation, the largest ever attack on Saudi's oil infrastructure in 2019. 2 of state-owned Saudi Aramco's plants were set ablaze, instantly cutting off the kingdom's oil production and sending shockwaves through global markets. though Saudi Arabia blamed Iran, which denied involvement. Some critics argued that MBS's aggressive stance toward Tehran and involvement in Yemen had invited retaliation. Yet MBS remained undeterred, continuing to project an image of progress. His ambitions extended beyond domestic reforms. He envisioned a new Saudi Arabia, a place where women attended concerts and cinemas thrived, where economic diversification meant less reliance on oil. He introduced Vision 2030, a plan meant to reshape the economy. Foreign investors were invited, new entertainment projects launched, and the kingdom began to loosen its cultural restrictions. But the price of this transformation was silence. Those who dared question the crown prince's methods vanished from public view. Human rights activists who had long pushed for reforms were either imprisoned or vanished, leaving behind only whispers and unanswered questions. Even within the ruling Al Saud family, concerns festered. Reports indicated that several branches of the vast family of around 10,000 members viewed MBS's approach as dangerously reckless, especially after the Khashoggi murder and the Aramco attack. Fear spread that his aggressive foreign policy and authoritarian rule might weaken the family's hold on power or expose the kingdom to further attacks. While the world debates his legacy, MBS stands firm. He is young, ambitious, and willing to take extreme measures to reshape his country in his own image. His critics argue that the facade of progress hides a far darker reality, one where freedom is stifled and dissent is met with fear and violence. As of today, Mohammed bin Salman remains an enigma, a leader of a kingdom steeped in tradition, yet one whose modern face hides the darkest secrets of authoritarianism. He has recalibrated Saudi Arabia's image abroad, but at home, fear reigns. The world watches, wondering how long can a facade of progress survive when built on a foundation of silence, oppression, and fear.